Thank you so much, dear President, dear Professor Tam, dear colleagues from different institutions, obviously, over here, and for the very, very kind reception. We are both, Sonny and I myself, we are very glad to be here and to have a chance to talk to you. And why are we here, actually? Yes, we would like to introduce HIAS, which is quite a new institution. HIAS was opened in the year 2019. Why, I will tell you later on a little bit about. And what are we aiming at? And I think my pre-speaker, she already mentioned the most important three words. What can we offer? We can offer time, we can offer funding, and we can offer space, and I would add, in a very international environment. What we are not aiming at, to make it very clear, we don't want to have average. If you come to HIAS, we are expecting exciting discussions, exciting meetings, and in general, I would say, exciting outcomes as well. Institutes for Advanced Study, worldwide, we have around 150. They are not as old as some of the academies worldwide. Some are several hundred years old, actually. The first Institute for Advanced Study was founded in the year 1930 in Princeton by Abraham Flexner. And what was his mission? I think it might have been twofold. First of all, he wanted to create such a place where scientists can follow their work. And secondly, he wanted to reform the American university system according to the what we call Humboldtian model. After Princeton, there were several waves where new institutes were founded. You can find them all over the world today. In Germany alone, we have around 25. I will tell you a bit more about them. And they all have at least one mission. They want to attract excellent researchers and offer, as I mentioned, time, funding, and space. But in general, they have 2 or 3 other missions as well. They are quite small institutions, and they have to find their own individual profile. After the first institutes were founded in the United States, one important mission was internationalization, or early career researchers. Today, I would say the 2 most important aspects, apart from excellence in research, is interdisciplinarity, I will come back to this later, and to be part of a global scientific community. I have a presentation, by the way. Here you have a first glimpse how HIAS actually looks like. We have 2 premises. On the upper one, you can see this is an old house, end of 19th century, not as nice as your building over here, but it's lovely and we all love it very much. It's very nicely redesigned. It's quite close to the university, walking distance, 5 minutes. And in general, our fellows stay in another building, quite an old building as well, on the opposite side of the road. This is the guest house of Hamburg University. So the whole environment is very efficient for scientific work. We have a second premise you can see further down, quite modern, where we have rooms as well for conferences and workshops. So it's a nice environment. On the right side, you see our kitchen, which might be the most important place, actually, because people meet over there. There is the big coffee machine, and there you can get food, beverages, and in general, some people you can talk to. Let's talk a bit about the structure of HIAS, because it's quite unusual. In general, worldwide, the majority of the institutes of advanced studies, they are university-based. That means they are part of a university. The same is true in Germany. We have, as I mentioned, around 25 institutes, and the majority belongs to a university. From Konstanz down the south, through Freiburg, many more, Frankfurt, at many places you find these institutes. Why they developed, I will tell you later. Hamburg is quite different. we are totally independent, and we are a membership organization. The Academy, you can see, is a member as well, and many different universities from the Hamburg region, but quite unusual as well, Hochschule für Bildende Künste for arts and Hochschule für Musik for music. They are members as well, so whenever you come, there are some artists around as well. Extremely important for the development of HIAS was the success of the University of Hamburg in the, as I called it, excellence strategy. This is a nationwide competition. You not only have it in Germany, you have it in some of the neighboring countries. It's a competitive process going on worldwide, I would say. In Germany, it's on two different levels. On the first level, universities do have to apply with research clusters, huge interdisciplinary projects for extra funding. And in case they are successful with two clusters at least, then they can apply for the excellence strategy. And as many other German universities as well, Hamburg applied with the idea to set up an Institute for Advanced Study. Because as the president already mentioned, it's desperately needed. You need a certain space where you can stay for a certain time and follow your scientific interests. So Hamburg was very successful, the second most successful university all over Germany, frankly speaking, quite unexpected. Everybody thought about Heidelberg, Munich, Berlin. No. Bonn got 6 clusters and Hamburg 4. Nobody expected this, and I think this is a huge success for this university. What is quite unusual as well, you can see here, there is a strong commitment by the city of Hamburg. Why that? And that might be interesting for Tallinn as well. Hamburg is well known for its huge harbor. I don't know whether you had a chance to go there. And now in the harbor, the Elbphilharmonie, we will take you there. It's a marvelous concert hall. It's really beautiful. It's famous for its harbor and for trade. But this will not be the future. Hamburg has to change. And the city is very much aware of that. The city has to change into a science hub. So the city of Hamburg, which is a state in itself in Germany, we have a very decentralized structure, decided to invest into an Institute for Advanced Study. I think there are not many worldwide where cities decided to support such an institute. They not only support HIAS, what they are doing as well, they built a totally new science city. It's called Bahrenfeld. So when you come here to Hamburg, you should have a look over there because this is quite unusual that a city is so far-sighted to think about much more than the next 10, 20, 30 years ahead. So we are most happy. We get lots of support from the city and all the funding, the institutional funding, that means our buildings, the salaries, the running costs, all this is covered by the city of Hamburg. If you look at the funding, accordingly to the structure, the funding does come from different sources. The first one, as I already mentioned, from the local ministry in Hamburg, and they are very good, very reliable partners. The fellowships are financially supported by Universität Hamburg, the biggest amount of money, the Academy of Sciences, and different foundations. Hamburg is quite famous for foundations because there was so much trade, so big companies were located in Hamburg, and in the end they decided to build up their own foundation. You might have heard the newspaper Zeit, and the founder of this newspaper, he set up this foundation, which is mentioned here as well. There was an evaluation of all institutes for advanced study in Germany by the German Science Council, with 2 outcomes. The Science Council mentioned that institutes of advanced study are very important for the German science system. Good to hear. It's not nice to have. You have to have it. That makes a difference. But on the other hand, they made very clear each institute has to look for its own profile. Not every institute can do everything. So right from the beginning, we thought about a strategy of HIAS. And here you can see what we offer. I already mentioned individual fellowships between 3 months and 10 months. And now you can see what we are aiming at. Excellence in research, this all 150 institutes worldwide do have in common. They want to get excellent researchers coming to the institute. What makes a difference to other ones is the next point. We are aiming at scientific networks. We want to use HIAS as a kind of instrument to make Hamburg more international. And as we all know, all the big scientific topics we talk about, whether it was COVID or climate change or whatsoever, or when we went to this Baltic conference, if you had to look at the different topics, the outcome, they always came from networks, not just by one researcher. Not one researcher can solve huge problems, him or herself. Not the climate change, no university can do it, no country can do it, only in networks. So networking seems to be extremely important, and you need international networks. You need partners all over the world. So this is something HIAS has very strongly in mind, and we try to work out networks on a global level, on a regional level, and on a local level. What does that mean? On a local level, whenever a researcher comes to Hamburg, either he or she already knows with whom she or he want to cooperate. Quite often they know their partners. In case they do not yet know, we will help to identify the best partners to do research with and to meet when you are in Hamburg. Globally, we try to build cooperations. For example, we started a cooperation with Stellenbosch University in South Africa, which is a strategic partner of Universität Hamburg as well. And we just started another cooperation with CALAS. This is a huge project in Latin America. Next aspect I already mentioned already. I think most of the institutes of advanced study today have a transdisciplinary approach. There are a few institutes focusing just on one topic. For example, there is one in mathematics, Oberwolfach, or there is one in physics in Frankfurt, but many of these institutes follow a transdisciplinary approach. That means we are open to any kind of discipline, including arts and music. We invite all career levels to come to HIAS, but would like to have a special focus on early career researchers. Therefore, we do have a close cooperation with the Global Young Academy or the young academies all over Germany. You might know in Germany we do not have just one Academy of Science. It's decentralized. We have 16 altogether, and then we have Leopoldina as the kind of umbrella. And all the 16 Academies of Sciences, they do have their own young academies, and we are in close touch with them. And there's a last point which is important to us, I think to society and to the city of Hamburg as well. We try to disseminate a little bit of the life of HIAS and especially of the outcome of the research which is done at HIAS to the public. So we organize public lectures, we organize conferences. For example, in autumn, there will be a huge conference on biodiversity, and HIAS will organize a meeting where we discuss what social sciences, humanities, and law can contribute to biodiversity. It's not just an issue of the sciences, but on the other fields as well. So from time to time, we have this kind of outreach. No? Visibility. This was quite important for us because we were very new, just opened in the year 19, and nobody knew about HIAS, so what to do? There is every year an open call in Hamburg at our membership institutions. The different presidents and directors, they write to all professors and tell them there is a new option to invite fellows from abroad. This is quite helpful because it starts the networking right from the beginning, and professors from Hamburg have a chance to invite exactly these scientists they are mostly interested in. Of course, what we all do have, we have a website, social media, and a flyer, as you can see here. Please help yourself. As I already mentioned, we try to extend the strategic partnerships with certain institutions. I mentioned Stellenbosch, I mentioned CALAS, or other projects might be with your institution, we will see. Before I came to HIAS, I was Secretary General at DAAD. It might be familiar here. You have 2 lecturers, one in Tartu and one in Tallinn from DAAD, German Academic Exchange Service. And I still have a very close relationship because I worked for decades actually for DAAD. So I can make use of the DAAD network all over the world via the offices and via the projects. And last but not least, we got in contact with the global young academy and the young academies from the Academy of Sciences, and they all promote HIAS. So today we get high numbers of applications from all over the world, but not from this part. And I think this is a pity. And the city of Hamburg was very fond of the idea that we would come over here because Hamburg is looking very much in this region, you know. We are a part of a cultural, how to say, cultural community, yeah? So you are the first one, and we hope very much quite a few might follow. And with this I come to an end. Sonja, she will tell you more about the life at HIAS and how to apply successfully. There are still challenges, of course. And the biggest challenge, I think, for all institutes for advanced studies, there are certain networks worldwide of these institutes, as you have for the academies as well. There's a European network. It's called NetHIAS, and we are a member now of NetHIAS. So the biggest challenge is a good diversity in an institute for advanced study. And I think there are, first of all, I would say 4 criteria. Gender is a big issue. It was a disaster at the beginning. There were no female applications, but this changed now. We are happy about this. We would like to have a regional diversity. Not only at the beginning, we mostly got applications from Britain, United States, might be from France. But we want to have a global diversity. So this was the second aspect. The third one, we would like to have a broad range of disciplines, because we realize the encounter between different disciplines, suddenly new ideas arise. And this is really amazing. To give you an idea from your field, we had this professor in medieval studies, and she is working on visions of nuns in monasteries in the medieval times. And there was a professor from the field of neuroscience, and you wouldn't have expected that they could do research together. But he was so much interested in these visions, and he wanted to understand from the field of neuroscience what is happening over there, so they started a joint research project. Next Thursday, we have a colloquium, what we have every Thursday. A professor from philosophy, he will give a colloquium, and a professor from anthropology, he will join. So we are very much interested in these encounters between different fields. This is something which makes such an institute so special, because in general you just don't have the time to meet your colleagues, might be from neuroscience or from other fields. But this happens in such an environment, and I think this is one of the aspects why it's so exciting to stay there. And we are looking forward to see you soon. Now I hand over to Sonja. Or would you like to ask some questions?
I think we have some time to take a few questions from the audience, and also actually we have a Slido for those who are attending us online, so eventually you can transmit your question by distance. And should you want to ask something, please use the mic for the recording purposes.
So thank you. My name is Margaret Tali. I'm from the Estonian Arts Academy. And I wanted to ask you further about these collaborations that you mentioned, these projects, just to know a little bit further what's the bigger subjects also at HIAS and the universities connected with it. So you mentioned there was the South African collaboration and the Latin American collaborative project. So perhaps you could talk a little bit further about those.
Very important. Your question is very important. Frankly speaking, I changed my mind. Before I came to Hamburg, DAD is located in Bonn, and I moved from Bonn to Hamburg, and when I was asked to come there, I thought it might be a good idea to have certain broad topics to work on. And some institutes are exactly following this line. But when I came to Hamburg, and when I met all these researchers, I totally changed my mind. And today I'm very much convinced that institutes of advanced study should work up bottom up. The ideas must be brought or must come from the fellows. And you never know which topic is the most exciting one in a certain batch of fellows. Yeah. Last year, for example, art history was a very important aspect. This year again. And another aspect I didn't expect at all is the future of cities. Because we had one fellow from Cambridge who did an HIASi grant in Berlin and in Hamburg. He got the funding from the EU before the Brexit. And what he did was so exciting for scientists in Hamburg, but in Berlin as well. So we decided we will have a conference on the future of cities in the British Embassy. I know the ambassador very well, so she allowed us to have it in the embassy, in the British Embassy in Berlin. Today, I would say, in general, the main topics people are interested in, they develop bottom-up. The other thing you mentioned, how to build up cooperations. Stellenbosch, as I mentioned, is a strategic partnership university of Universität Hamburg. And they have an excellent program, what we all liked very much. It's called Isolomso. It's a program, I think it's mostly financed from Sweden, where Stellenbosch, which has a huge Institute for Advanced Study itself, invites young fellows from all the neighboring African countries to come to Stellenbosch. The funding goes over 3 years. They stay in Stellenbosch for a certain time, and then they can go to other institutes of advanced studies abroad. And for us, this was a very good opportunity to make a first contact with Africa, actually. And we hope very much. We got an excellent young philosopher from Stellenbosch, who she stayed with us for, I think, 4 months. This was really great, and I hope year by year we will get some fellows from there. The other cooperation we thought about, Latin America, is very important as well. And there are some huge projects by the German Ministry of Education and Research. This is on social labor. And they approached us whether we would be interested to cooperate with them. So, as I mentioned, we try to build up a kind of diversity and to get some reliable partners all over the different continents.
Thank you. If I may ask something, I was curious about, while reading the website of HIAS, you underline that you want to be, as an institution, an active partner for the city and to contribute to the intellectual and cultural urban life of Hamburg. And this is, I would say, quite exceptional to my experience, because quite often those institutes for advanced studies are meant to be kind of monasteries or oases, to be isolated from the urban life as such, while you want to be in a dialogue. But can you tell about the forms this sort of collaboration takes? And because it's not that easy to put scholars into the social life. And
I think the main reason is we all do observe that the relationship between science and society is changing. Today, science is getting more and more important. I think in a certain way, COVID was a kind of turning point. Yeah? Without life sciences and medicine, we wouldn't have been able to solve this pandemic. Yeah? And the same is true for climate change. But the relationship between society and science is not clear at the moment. There are certain expectations on side of society. They do expect that each scientist is telling the truth. But life is not so easy, as you know much better than I do. Science is a process. Yeah? You can go wrong. You might be right. You have to change from time to time your ideas or your positions. And this process to communicate into society, I think this is extremely important. In many countries, science communication at the moment is a huge issue. And in many countries as well, you see a polarization of society. And I think science has a certain responsibility. And we spend taxpayers' money. And what we found out, what is very interesting, not all, but some of the researchers are very keen to start such a kind of communication. And we developed several formats, smaller ones and larger ones. Just opposite from HIAS, there is a huge museum, and they have a beautiful old auditorium. And sometimes we use this, for example, for the conference on biodiversity and the contribution of humanities, social sciences, and law. This will take place over there. It's not an easy task, you are absolutely right, because in general, only people who are really interested will come and take part. Yeah? We should approach other groups in society, what is not so easy. We have to think about this again. But for example, on COVID, we had a very good conference. It was open to the public on COVID and time, because the feeling of time has changed tremendously through COVID. Some processes were faster, some were slower, and we had a scientist who did research on that. We have very small formats with not more than 20 people, where we meet in a very close environment. We invite decision makers on certain issues which are really important for politics. For example, we had such a meeting on data protection or assisted suicide, because the German government has to write a new law on this. This we wouldn't do for general public, but for example, directors from clinics, from law companies, we invited to have a very open discussion. There's no protocol, everybody can speak very frankly. It's a kind of decision-making process, so many different formats. But since we are quite young, we are still looking for new ways and means how to communicate what we are doing.
But maybe then the other aspect I find very important and not that usual is the involvement of artists in the HIAS. And then also maybe you could tell how it works. I mean, when you put together researchers and artists, do you expect that the artists are doing some kind of artistic research, that they should relate to the ongoing research? or are they completely free to elaborate, I don't know, art exhibitions and whatever? And then maybe this is also yet another way how to communicate with the society via the artists. Yeah.
I would love to invite you for the 3rd of May to come to Hamburg, because one of our fellows, she will perform her new opera. She comes from Australia, Cat Hope. Frankly speaking, they are totally free. Yeah, but nevertheless, we have certain boards to select our fellows, and the director from the Kunsthalle and the director from the School of Arts, they are members over there, and they are very much interested to attract people who might be interested to have their own exhibition at the Kunsthalle in Hamburg. This was quite new for us as well. Last year this was great. We had a conductor for new music, not so easy to listen for everybody. And each Tuesday after our lunch, we have 2 times where the fellows have to come together. Apart from that, they're free to do whatever they like to. We have a lunch together, only the fellows, not we, the people working there. And on Thursday we have colloquium. Yeah, and a dinner afterwards. And every Tuesday, this conductor, he took all the fellows and introduced a new piece of music to them. And they loved it. They were not used to this kind of music. And I joined, and I must say, I learned so much. It's a totally new way of listening if you have such a great expert who is explaining what he is doing all the time. And apart from that, he performed a new Singspiel, something between opera and, I don't know what, you might know what a Singspiel. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, maybe any other final question?